When I talk with CEOs or with managers about listening, they tell me, if I listen, my employees will think that I agree with them. So then make an equation, listening equal agreement. So what I try to convey them is that while you're listening and make others feel understood, this is the first stage of building a relationship. What would have happened if a manager in a year don't change their mind? So if you don't change your mind, probably you don't listen.
Hello and welcome to the Mind Your Leadership podcast. I'm Keren Tsuk and today I will speak with Dr. Osnat Bouskila-Yam. Osnat is the founder of a consulting firm specializing in organizational development. She also teaches in 2 universities. Dr. Bouskila-Yam earned her PhD from Ben-Gurion University, where she focused on the impact of listening during team meetings on knowledge sharing in high-tech companies in Israel. Today, we will dive into a crucial topic for any thriving team, the power of communication and the art of listening. And now these skills can shape success in any organization. So it's a pleasure that you joined our conversation today. I'm looking forward to it. First, I want to share our meeting. It was like, for me, it was kind of a deep listening, right? We met in a serendipity moment. And I thought to myself, where should I go to eat? And I felt like going to the coffee shop in the Cafe next to my office. I don't know why. Usually I don't go there. And then I reached the coffee shop and we met, right? And our eyes met.
We looked at her.
Yeah, we looked at each other and said, we know each other. It feels like we know each other, right? We were meant to meet. So that's amazing if we're talking about deep listening, right? I love to start with a personal question. What was the highest or lowest point of your life or career path, and what have you learned from it?
I'll start with the lowest and finish with a positive example. My lowest point in my career was when I aspired to become a manager in Intel. I joined Intel at 97, and after a year, the position of the OD manager, which I belonged to, was open. So I wanted to become a manager. And I said to Ra'anan, he was my manager. I told him, listen, Ra'anan, I want to become a manager. And he told me, listen, Osnat, you can't. Why I can't become a manager, Ra'anan? And then he told me that I lacked a strategic thinking. You can't become a manager because you don't have these capabilities. This was very difficult for me to listen to this feedback, to understand how he perceived me at that time. It was very hard to listen, but at the same time, eventually it became a gift. I spoke with a good friend and realized I have strategic thinking, like a muscle I didn't use enough. So first of all, I needed to trust myself, to believe in myself. And later on, after this conversation with my friend, I used any opportunity to use this muscle. In a meeting, in a one-on-one, in a planning, when we plan for the next year, etc. So I made sure to apply this strategic thinking muscle, and after a few months, I was promoted.
Wow.
Managerial role. I can point out that when you listen carefully to feedback, understanding he didn't want to hurt my feelings. He was very honest, very direct. And when I listened carefully, I could point out the things in myself that I was not expressed then at my best. And then eventually everything was open for me. This is the first story.
That's amazing. Let me resonate with what is resonant within me, and then we'll go to the next story. In the past, when I got not also different from you, when I was getting feedback, I was really taking it personally, and I felt like it's a lack of love because I didn't love myself enough. I couldn't bear listening to feedback because I wasn't open. In the process of my growth, I learned to love myself and understand that the feedback doesn't resonate with the love for me, right? It resonates with the ability to really adopt, as you did, the important stuff and practice and embrace it to grow and thrive. It's amazing you were open and you could handle it in a positive way and use it to your favor. I think it's really a tricky point. I think because at the beginning we feel uncomfortable giving feedback. Once we grow and have balance, love, and acceptance, we're open to feedback and we can grow.
Usually, when we talk about listening, we refer to the situation when you don't need to judge the others. So, the unjudgmental point of view towards the others. In this example, and what you have said about yourself, it's about not judging yourself. The first rule is listen to yourself and not judge yourself. And it reminds me of a book of how to listen so your kids will talk and how to talk so your kids will listen. Mm-hmm. If we go back to the example I gave, Rana talked to me in a way that I was able to listen. And this is the secret.
What did he do in his talk when he talked to you? Remember?
He was very direct. He was not like raising the tone of voice. He was speaking very calmly. I know he wanted the best for me. So it was kind of relationship that was very unique. We call Hannah the ex-manager because so many people really loved him.
So his intention was true and honest. You felt he sees you and he's with you, not against you, right? There was trust.
He saw me. 100% saw me. When I teach in the university, I tell my students, there's no positive or negative feedback. There's positive and negative intention. So you can provide a negative feedback with a positive intention, it will be perceived as positive.
So you said at the end of the day, we resonate with the intention. We can say it the wrong way, but if I will feel you came from a good place, from a good heart, yes, I will take it into account. But if I will feel that the intention was negative, doesn't matter the way you said it, I won't resonate with it, right?
Wow, exactly.
You said you have another story? I'm curious.
So my highest point of my career, when I look back on my career, my highest point was as external consultant and SodaStream, for SodaStream. So I left Intel after 10 years at 97, and then I opened my own firm. One of my first clients was SodaStream. I worked there for 5 years, and I did a lot of processes within SodaStream. I was internal consultant, but not internally, right? I did a lot of things. So the audit manager asked me to implement the performance evaluation process. Her name is Ronit Sarik. She's a very good friend of mine today. And I realized that I don't like this process very much. I didn't like this process in Intel, and I wanted to do something different, something positive. I told her, I'm willing to do it, but let's focus on more positive psychology. She agreed. I contacted Professor Kluger and other colleagues, and as a team, we designed a beautiful process that focused on the principle of the feed-forward tool by Professor Kluger and Dr. Dina Neal. We wrote an article that was published to share the information, to share the process. The name of the article is the Strength-Based Performance Appraisal and Goal Setting. So this is the highest point in my career because I think that we did something in a different and unique way, but we also published it. I mean, as an academic, I wear two hats. Yeah. I'm working in the academic and I work also as a practitioner. So for me, publish an article about being a practitioner, it's the ultimate process, and it's very hard to publish articles. Believe me, I know.
So it's amazing in two ways. First of all, what I heard when you told the story, it's the fact, again, that you listen to yourself, because you said, okay, I don't like this process. You could have done it without connecting to it, but you were loyal to yourself and said, okay, I want to do this, but in my own unique way. Let's find the right way forward. You didn't let go of it. A lot of people ignore their intuition, but you really listen deeply and you work with it and engage your colleagues with it. So this is amazing. For me, this is the most crucial of listening, right? Listening, first of all, to ourselves, because as I see it, you can listen to others if you're not loyal to yourself and you're not listening to yourself. So this is amazing by itself. And the other thing that is amazing is also, yes, the ability to create a great process and a paper out of it that people can learn from it. And I'm curious to learn from you, what was the process? Can you tell us in a few words?
Full process of feedback. The employees evaluate themselves, right?
Yeah.
And then the managers evaluate their employees, and they have a session to compare employees to employees, and they give feedback, 3 negative and 3 positive. According to one of the positive psychology theory, when a person feels 3 negative emotions and 3 positive emotions, if it's equal, this person will be depressed.
Really?
When a person feels 3 positive emotions and 1 negative emotion, this ratio, he's in a flourish, he's in a good situation. When a person feels 7 positive emotions and 1 negative, he is detached from reality. Based on this theory, we changed the way we evaluate employees to 3 to 1. And before the evaluation, we train the managers to hold a feed-forward session. The feed-forward session asks 3 questions. Tell me about yourself at your best. What is the story? How it looks like? What was the peak point? What was the best point? And what are the conditions that allowed you to be at your best? Imagine yourself evaluated the 3 strengths and 1 negative for improvement. We have one session that the employees are being heard by their managers. So the employees had the opportunity to talk about themselves, to share, what do I think about myself? What are my strengths? Okay, so the whole process was really, really unique and interesting. In a nutshell, it's not in depth. You can read the article.
I will send it me please over, but it's really great because it actually connects to the appreciative inquiry theory, right? Like, see the positive, because our brain is required to see the negative, right, in order to survive. But you actually invited people to thrive, connect to the positive. It's not our natural perspective. Once we see the positive, our body gets relaxed, right? We're getting great energy, so it affects our embodiment, how we are present in the moment, and then we can bear and embrace the feedback. And like, it's funny because when you talk, it's like the ratio 1 to 3 or 3 to 3, it's like sound counterintuitive because we don't have time. We want to say as many things as we need, right? Because we have short time. But if you go with this ratio 3 to 1, the one perspective that you are offering to change and grow, you will embrace it. If you bring the 3, maybe you won't embrace any of them, right? So sometimes it's counterintuitive, right? Focus on one thing, but do it in a good and positive way. People will embrace and get the maximum out of it.
Exactly. In day-to-day life in organizations, some managers find it hard to really have a dialogue with the employees from a balanced way because the power that the manager has. We know that it's difficult to have a conversation like we forget about the power, we forget about the issues. We are human beings. We are together in this. And we recommended the managers to hold these meetings outside the office, to have an informal meeting, to allow the circumstances, the environment to be more inviting. And you're right, what you're focused on is growth. So if you're focused on the weaknesses, this will grow. If you focus on the strength, this will grow.
When we speak, it resonates with the vulnerability aspect. As a manager, we have a power relation. I can show myself. If I show I don't know the answers, I will be seen as. How do you see the vulnerability piece in organizations, among managers?
There's a very interesting article that talks about the correlation between power and listening. As you become more powerful, you listen less.
Not surprised.
Not surprisingly. So I think that if you are a main manager, you are most likely to be open, to be perceived as vulnerable, and it will not be as dramatic for you. But as you become powerful, you probably listen less. Why? Rogers pointed out that who are the employees that are being promoted to a leadership role, to a management role? Those employees that know how to evaluate, how to direct, what to do, how to do, they know to judge, they know to decide. These qualities bring those employees to the positions of management, right? But once you are a manager, all of those qualities are not going along with the listening capabilities. Because as a listener, you need an unknowing mindset, a vulnerable point of view. You are not the one who knows everything. So you need to come from this dialogue from a different perspective. And for some managers, it's really hard to do that. But if you're in a position that you trust yourself and you know to combine the complicated or the contradicting capabilities of knowing and unknowing, of deciding and not judgmental. So, how you can embrace this complexity as a manager while listening to your employees, forget about knowing.
So it really resonates with my research, my PhD, because I found it really, leaders need to be present and mindful. Then they can hold tensions in a paradoxical way between short-term and long-term, known and unknown, speed and quality. We need to have this presence and center and to really trust ourselves, right? To be present and to say, okay, I don't need to show off that I know. Sometimes I don't know the answer. As it was like 10 years ago, the CEO stood in front of the company and told them, look, we're in this challenging times. I don't have answers for you where we'll be in 6 months. Once we have, I will let you know, but for now I don't. And I was impressed because he needed courage to stand in front of people. And once he did it, people were calmed down because he talked what they felt. Because till the moment he talked about it, everybody was gossiping, right? Looking for information, but nobody knew the answer. But the moment he held this unknown and was present with it, and it gave them the answer they needed to let go and trust. So I think this is actually the crucial traits and qualities that we need nowadays as leaders to hold the tension and uncertainty, to not know the answers. What do you think?
I agree. Usually, when managers listen, it's hard for them to give up on knowing because it's so strong. A quality that served you until a certain point no longer will serve you in the future. I totally agree. This example you get is incredible for this CEO.
That's incredible. It's the ability to let go of the consequences, right? It's so hard because we say something, as I told you at the beginning of the session, I came from a difficult conversation. I needed to confront a colleague and sometimes, the true and honest communication, it's messy. It's not always very lovey-dovey and we have this process and the way it goes. No, sometimes we need to dare not to know how we'll end up and what we emerge after this meeting, to let go of the attachment of the results in order to really dare to bring our values, our thoughts, our emotion, whatever comes, in order to really enable the right solution. It's really difficult because we don't like to be in this touchy feelings and messy and chaos environment, right?
When we talk about difficult conversation, this is one of the barrier for listening.
What do you mean?
So it's easy to listen when it's nice and lovey-dovey, as you said, right? Now we are here. We have no conflict. We are at the first stage of our relationship. So it's nice. But when we face conflicts in our relationship, this is where we need to pay attention to how we listen. In Israel, most of the time, people talk together.
Yep.
Pay attention to what happened in our TV, right? When you had more than one people. And it brings me to my PhD. Most of the research on listening were done on a dyad relationship. On two people, what happened when we have, okay? I'm the speaker right now, you're the listener, it's easy, right? But what happened when you have a team? 10 people in the room, okay? What happened then? What happened when you have multiple speakers and multiple listeners? So it relates to the situation when the leader need not only to be perceived as a good listener, he or she or they need to embrace and manage the listening of others, to maintain the turn talk between people, to allow more people to speak, to avoid interruption to each other. And in this way, he can create an excellent listening in team meetings. Because among judges, they can agree about the differences between poor and good listening. But judges don't agree between what are the differences between good and excellent. So in order for you as a leader in a team to have excellent listening, you need to increase the amount of time that you enable each one of the team members to speak and reduce the number of interruptions. Keren, you listen beautifully. You don't interrupt me. You don't give me solution. You don't say, oh, it reminds me that. You don't say, I want to say that. You let me finish speaking and you embrace the science after my speaking for 1 or 2 seconds, and only then you speak. This is a beautiful quality that you bring to this podcast. And how can we imitate or do that in a group of people?
First of all, thank you for the compliment. And secondly, so you're actually saying that what you find in order to create a speaking environment, the manager needs to be a facilitator, right? To give the same amount of time to people to speak, people who are shy to help them show up. People maybe take too much time to let them off a little bit, to create this harmony between the people that each and every one will be able to bring his voice to the table, right? Am I right?
You said facilitation? I would rather name it listening facilitator.
Okay, listen.
One of the manager was perceived by the employees as a very good listener. But all of them, there was a consensus in this team, this specific team, evaluate the listening in team meetings as poor. So there was a gap between you as a manager being perceived as good listener, but in your team, you had poor listening. So this is the conclusion that it's not enough to be perceived as good listener, even if it's a very good situation, because most managers evaluate themselves as better listener as they truly are.
Yep.
So this is a very good situation for him, but at the same time, he was not managing the listening of others during team meetings.
So you say it's not enough to be an enabler and to listen to others. You also need to be active during the meeting and help people show up more fully and create equity between people, right?
Exactly. And I'll give you one piece of data. When you measure listening, how do you measure listening? So first of all, you ask the people, how do you listen? How's your manager listening? How's the listening in your team? Additionally, observe behaviors. People can tell you whatever they want. One can tell you, I'm listening very well, blah, 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 but it's not sure that this is the reality. And then you compare the data based on the interviews and focus groups and the data from the observations. I held 29 observations, around 10 focus groups and 18 interviews with the people. And then I realized that in those teams, there was either medium or poor listening. The managers interrupted a lot to their employees, and the employees interrupted a lot to the manager. In those two teams, that these two managers did not interrupt to their employees, and the employees did not interrupt to them. So, for example, it was like only 10 interruptions during team meetings, and in the other teams, it was 50 interruptions.
Wow.
So you see the differences.
Amazing. So I'm taking it forward and saying that actually what you'll find that the leader must enable space for people to speak and be gentle. If gentle, it will flow spontaneously. And once they're putting too much effort and too much intervention, actually maybe they're also ruining the flow of the conversation, of the meaning that emerges during the conversation, right? Am I understanding you?
You understand? correctly. And it's really interesting because I measured interruptions, but I also measured distractions. So, for example, people looking at their cellular was counted. So I counted how many times people were looking at their cellulars. And when I asked managers in the interviews, because I held the observations first and then I had the interviews, right? So I asked the managers, listen, why didn't you comment to your employees about using their cellular so much? And the managers told me, how can I comment to my employees about their cellular? It's as if it's their hands. So the distractions in the team meetings, it was very hard for managers to manage the distraction because they felt that it's not nice to do that.
They didn't feel comfortable confronting and putting boundaries to the employees. They were trying to please them and be nice, and they couldn't hold the space respectfully and create a deep listening space.
How a manager can set expectations about team meetings in a more effective way. But if this device, right, is in the table, it reduces the level of trust, it reduces the level of intimacy, it reduces the level of happiness. There was a lot of research about that.
Wow. So if you know managers are listening to us right now and they say, okay, I want to create this space, what do you offer them to do tomorrow morning in baby steps in order to create a listening space?
To improve your listening skills. It's a decision. Secondly, be aware of your listening skills. Sometimes people don't know what listening is. What does it mean to listen carefully? So you can listen to our podcast, to listen to lectures about listening. What does it mean listening? How to be attentive, how to not judge the other, how to paraphrase whatever is being said to you in order for you to understand the other person and to let the other person feel understood. As Stephen Covey said, first seek to understand, then to be understood. So first decide, then learn, and third, ask your people, your spouses, children, family, employees, how they perceive you as a listener. And then hold a gap analysis between how I evaluate myself, how others evaluate me, and what are the things that I need to improve. I would like to give you one example about myself. Before I started to research listening, I was interrupted others and tell them what they wanted to say. So let's say a person says something and hesitate for a second, and he just breathed for 1 second. I immediately jumped and said to him what I thought his story was or her story was. And eventually I received a very positive feedback because I told him, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to say. Wow. So this is a habit that I build and build and build because I thought it's very positive. But once, when I realized what listening is, I understood that I am a witness to their story. And I would like them to tell the story as they understand it. And if they hesitant or have few seconds, let the few seconds be. I'm not interrupting. It is as if you are witness to the sunset.
Uh-huh.
You don't tell the sun, go to the right, go to the left, go up. Oh, I don't like this pink color. Change it to red. No, you don't, right? You evidence and you see the sunset and enjoy it and enjoy the story. So understanding that the story told needs to be told by their words, their feelings, and not you. So if a manager or human being, anyone, will do those steps of self-evaluation, evaluate by other, try to bridge the gaps, and try to learn what listening is, I'm sure that everyone can be a better listener.
Amazing. I want to circle back to two things that you said. One of them you said, and one came to my mind. First, not being judgmental. It's crucial and really challenging, as in the West. We live in the West world and we really challenging ourselves, judging ourselves. And again, I think it starts within ourselves. So I think it's a practice to accept ourselves. As much we will accept ourselves, we will be able to really accept others, and we'll accept that we don't need to agree on everything, but we create the space, right? What do you think?
Wow, you said something so important. Rogers point out this relationship between listening and agreement. When I talk with CEOs or with managers, with mid managers about listening, they tell me, listen, Osnat, if I listen, my employees will think that I agree with them. Wow. So they make an equation, listening equal agreement. So what I try to convey them is that while you're listening and make others feel understood, this is the first stage of building a relationship. Later on, you can tell and share with these specific employees or colleague or whatever, listen to you. I understood you, but I disagree with you. But hold a second. What would have happened if a manager in a year don't change their mind? So if you don't change your mind, probably you don't listen.
Because you're not present, right? Nothing resonates within you, so you're not really listening. It can be a small thing that will open your eye or enable you to look differently. If nothing touches you, I think you're not present.
Exactly. So what we understand that Rogers told that if why people are afraid to listen, because they're afraid to change their perspective. So not listening protect me from changing my perspective. We understand right now that if you don't change your perspective in a year or in a few months, probably you're not a good listener. So pay attention to how many times you really listen carefully, you're present in the moment, and you tell the employees, I listen to you and I disagree, it's fine. But from time to time, pay attention when you need to really listen and to also change your time.
Actually, it's the presence paradox, right? Because when we're really present, something will resonate or touch us. If I'm not present, nothing will touch me and I won't change. So that's an amazing point. Another thing, second thing I wanted to say, I think another important skill for listening and communication, it's the ability to ask questions. I think a lot of people don't feel comfortable asking questions because then they will think I'm stupid, I don't know, and they don't ask questions. And I think it's a crucial skill that we need to embrace also in order to create nourished communication. What do you think about it?
We call it Socrates effect. Let me tell you a short story. The same manager, Lana, the ex-manager, I had an accident in Intel. I hit my company car with my personal car. I did reverse, and that's what happened. So I came to Rana and I told him, listen, this is the story. And he said to me, Osnat, listen, we will cover the costs. Don't worry about that. But then he asked me questions. Why it happened to you? What would have happened if you hit your neighbor or, God forbid, your children? What does it mean about you? Those questions stayed with me. Later on, when I opened my business and I had 3 consultants working for me, one of the consultants got late to a workshop. And the CEO of the company called me, Osnat, your consultant was late. What's wrong? Blah, blah, blah. A few days later, I had the same conversation with her, with the same mindset. I said, listen, you got late. It's okay. But let me ask you a few questions. Why you got late? What does it mean about you? What do you think about you as a professional coming late to a workshop? What can you learn from that? It means if we want to evoke change, if we want to change the attitude, we can't come from a speaker point of view, rather come from a listener point of view. By asking questions, we allow the other person to reflect and change the aptitude.
Amazing. And then there will be a deep change instead of telling them what they need to feel or experience. Osnat, I can continue for hours with you. It's really interesting. But before we need to wrap up, I want to ask you if there are any question that I didn't ask you and you want to refer to.
I would like to refer to one insight that I have. I'm teaching listening in Rathman University for the past few years. And one very interesting process students go through is when they learn how to listen, they talk less. What I tell them, don't give up on your right to speak. So when we design or develop a listening environment, we need to ensure that everyone have the opportunity to either speak and either listen.
I love it. Even if you're a good listener, don't give up your place. Be present and take a place from a really deep listening place. Osnat, it was really, really interesting for me also. And, we both on this piece of communication and we can go deeper and deeper and it's amazing. If listeners want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
They can find me in the LinkedIn, Osnat Bouskila-Yam, email. Pleasure.
Great pleasure.
Thank you, Keren, so much. I really appreciate it.
Hope you enjoyed the conversation. You're invited to subscribe to our podcast in order to know when we upload a new episode and follow us on social media. Thank you for listening. Until next time, take care and bye-bye.